Welcome to the Windham School District Board of Directors and Selectboard joint meeting. Today's date is June 4th, 2026 at 6:38 p.m. And here we are. Are there any additions or deletions or changes to the agenda that anybody would like to request?
Not me.
No, I think it looks pretty good, and I would just say I'm writing right now. For folks that are here, please feel free to use the chat. If for some reason there's something that you can't, we're having technical issues, just want to make sure we're hearing everybody. And I'll do my best to kind of be out there for the Zoom folks, because Michael and I are the only ones here. So again, for the minute take or two, if you want to maybe do a roll call of who's on there so that when they take the minutes.
Sure. We've got Kate Fellows, we got Abigail and Michael Peltoncourt, Scott Bill Dunkel, BCTV, of course, Tom Widger, Crystal Corview, Bridget Blanchard, Bob Tebow, and that's it thus far. Just for a note, there will be no public comment. If anybody has anything to say, I would just encourage you to speak up or raise your hand, preferably raise your hand, but if you can't find it, just say something, it's okay. This is sort of just a general conversation. You don't have to get too wrapped around the axles about being too particular. So I think to start, I would like to start by sharing a quick presentation. And let me see if I can get it rolling. Okay. There we go. Okay, so I will preface this conversation by the fact that this is a conversation about H955. It's a pretty sizable document. There's a lot of little details that, frankly, I didn't really have time to digest, and I'm sure that people will be discovering things as we go along. So this is a super quick overview, and it's subject to change. It hasn't even been officially signed yet, at least to my knowledge. So bear with me, and I hope that things will work out in the wash. Let's put it that way. Let me figure out how to get rid of this thing. Does that get out of the way for you? Oh no, that's on this screen. Sorry. Okay.
You minimize it? It doesn't do that?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Okay. So H955, basically we're trying to discuss like what that really means for the town of Winhdam. And there's a lot of uncertainty. That's the short story long. We really want to know and understand why the reform is happening. I think we all have a pretty good idea. It's really important to look at this as sort of a statewide initiative and try to understand what the legislature is trying to do. Whether they've achieved that or not is sort of up to review, right? Nobody really knows because we don't know what the final product will be. We're going to really have a quick brief conversation about what Winhdam looks like currently, what the potential impacts are, what the basic timeline looks like, and then how realignment might look and what we could possibly or may possibly do, and then some of the options and risks. And that's pretty much it. It's like I said, it's a super broad overview. This is not in detail. It is a pretty sizable document. And if you want to study it, by all means, please do, because it's going to take some time to digest. So the goal of 955 was really to theoretically restructure public education and its governance. The state has sort of wrestled with this concept for, I would say, a good 20 years, more or less. The last merger process is sort of an extension of that. And the results are arguable depending on which side of the coin you look at. But it is what it is. It is the coin that it's what we're going to face regardless. It does create this concept of CISAs, and I'm not sure I'm really convinced that it's actually gonna do a whole lot for the state. It is basically what our SU is doing, right? We're sharing services between our district and districts to try to find economy. And if other supervisory unions aren't doing that, then they probably, one can hope, will find some economy of scale. H955 also assigns districts to mandatory study groups. You are assigned to a study group regardless. They do sort of encourage the concept of participate in some other conversations outside of the mandatory group, but I'm not sure exactly how that's going to pan out. I'm not sure if anybody really does yet. It does require the evaluation of larger unified school districts, and they specifically use the words regional high school and local elementary schools. The presentation that I watched, which was the Ed committee, one of the members asked what that means, local elementary schools, and it was clear that there was no defined definition, and I'm not certain that one was created. So what local means, I have no idea, and I'm not really certain that I'm confident that I know what regional high schools actually mean. But clearly the push is to push things in large things, and sort of push things further out, if that makes sense, so that we have more students in a school versus smaller schools. Why are they doing it? Well, they're trying to reduce administrative duplication. They're trying to improve access to certain services like special ed and staffing. They're trying to address financial inefficiencies in small districts, quote unquote, financial inefficiencies in small districts. I think that's debatable from my personal standpoint, but that's what they're trying to do. And they're trying to create sort of a more consistent, like statewide framework, including like streamlining curriculum and things like that. And I think that's maybe where the CISAs are going to step in and sort of create like a regional concept. And the regions are pretty big. It should be noted that they use and define the term supervisory union in line with like the CISA concept as well as like technical schools. So I'm not sure how that really looks when people get to the end of the day, but that is the thing. So again, oops, did I go backwards?
I think you might.
Yeah, okay. So again, they're really looking for fewer, larger districts. There's no automatic school closure, but all of the districts will be reviewed following the study groups. And there is a review process for a conversation about forced mergers after 2028. At least that's the way I interpret the H955. There theoretically is a more regional planning mission versus like a town by town individual choice based on what the town wants. And again, they're trying to push for that regional shared service model. Whoops, I keep going backwards, sorry. So how are they grouped? Well, theoretically, they're grouped by geography. They're theoretically grouped by existing supervisory unions. They're trying to balance out what may or may not work based on what they think at the Montpelier level. Clearly, they're not maybe as intimate with the information in the districts and the supervisory unions than the people on the ground, but that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get clusters of somewhere around 2,000 students, more or less. At least that's what it looks like, so that people can really think about, like, how do we get this larger population of students and make it as hyper efficient as possible? What that looks like for Winhdam is sort of unknown, because as you know, or may not know, Winhdam is comprised of two different districts. We're represented at the Windham School District, which is an elementary K through 6 district. And then we're also represented through the West River District, which is our 7 through 12 district. And clearly the models are entirely different, right? We're non-operational at the K through 6 level. And we have an operational school at the 7 through 12 model through the West River system. But in terms of Windham's direct impact on that, we have one member on the board versus our, elementary level where it is our town, right? It's very different. The important thing to know is that the Windham School District and the West River School District are separated by the study group assignments. Right now, they're not in the same group. What that means in the end, I have no idea. Maybe somebody else would know better. Perhaps Bob could weigh in. I don't know. But that's sort of up in the air, and I'm not sure how Winhdam can navigate that or how Winhdam needs to navigate that, but we need to keep that in the back of our mind. It's going to be a little bit tricky. Bob, go ahead.
I think what you're referencing was the Senate language, but I believe that after the conference committee work that they did, that the Windham district ended up with West River. I believe only Stratton from Windham Central is in a different merger group. I believe you guys are with West River.
So they
I could be wrong on that, but I think you're looking at one version, which was maybe a version earlier.
Yeah, it's possible. The last conversation that I heard about it was that is problematic at the state level, and because they weren't sure what that means. So that's maybe good. I don't know. We'll see. So I think that we need to think about how, personally, this is a personal opinion, I think we need to think about, as we move forward, how we work the two different districts independently or somehow bring those paths together. It's going to be finicky, right? We need to figure out how Winhdam can be best represented.
If I may chat, Bridget, Blanchard had stated the towns in the WRED are also in different counties.
Yeah.
Winhdam uses the Londonderry transfer station. Other WRED towns do not. So that's a good point, Bridget. Thank you.
Yeah, that's very true. So I think it's something that we all need to be very, very careful of and thoughtful of, is that we are really represented by two different boards, and we need to figure out how to navigate to make sure that Windham's preferences and desires are supported by data. And I think that's the big key that we need to remember is data. So as small districts are being evaluated for consolidation, as we know, it looks like the clusters are somewhere around 2,000. It looks like there might be a 750 minimum. At the end of the day, they're looking at districts that are less than 750 being sort of problematic. What that means at the end of the day, I'm not sure I know what that really is going to do, but it seems like the state might consider taking anybody who is quote unquote smaller than that 750-ish range and consider pushing them into, well, I don't want to use the word push, but encouraging them to join another district because they're looking for that hyper efficient end of day product. Larger systems, as we know, are considered theoretically more sustainable. Whether it is or isn't, I don't know. And small standalone districts are not going to be encouraged at the end of the day. Like, they do not want us to be the Windham School District grade 7 through 12 and have 40 students. I'm pretty sure that it's fair to say that that won't, at the end of the 3 years, won't end up being that way. So it looks like to me that basically 2026 is when the study committees are going to get formed, groupings are happening, and sort of the beginning process is going to sort of start. By 2027-ish, they're going to start looking at how the financial operations can be consolidated, what makes sense. I'm assuming that's sort of the phase that the folks that are assigned to these study groups are really going to be faced with Can I come to the meeting with data? This is how my town looks. And this is what makes the most sense to my town based on data. The key word is data. We can't come to these meetings with, well, we would prefer to go here because it's nice. It has to be backed by data, because at the end of the day, the legislature is going to be faced with the decision, and we're going to want to be able to have those conversations with our electorate to prove that this is the most sense that we can do based on this data. So anyway, somewhere around 2028, there should be a final vote of the new structures. And by 2029, there's some sort of implementation phase, which starts rolling out and is in theory completed by 2030-ish. I think based on the way things have gone through the legislature over the last few years, there's potential for some shift and some change, but this is sort of the rough path that I think things are headed. Whether they stay that way, I don't know. I mean, we saw what happened with 181. When people start facing the bigger conversations, they may push for some sort of change. It's hard to tell. All right.
Can I chime in? There's
Yeah,
a comment
please.
in the chat. So
Yeah.
Kate Fellows said, I believe we're all in the same county. We're all in Windham County, going all the way down to Brattleboro, and want to know if someone can confirm. So I would say yes, county, but when what Bridget may have been referencing was with the Londonderry transfer station is, you know, depending on the state entity and what's going on, your range and your county region
Yeah.
shifts. And Londonderry would fall into like that, the other side. So if we're, you know, using Londonderry, which our community does for a lot of things.
Well, I think Londonderry is in Windham County. Londonderry is in Windham County as well. We are all, by the definition of Windham County, we are in the same. And I don't mean to get caught up in semantics, but I think it does. You know, if you're looking at it from the state level, that's why we're all getting grouped together as we are, because we are technically in the same county.
Are we, Bob, is Londonderry lumped into ours, or is it primarily based on supervisory union?
I mean, it's both. I mean, Londonderry is not in the same merger group we are, but they are in Windham County.
Yeah.
I mean, you know that Windhall used to be part of Windham Central, but is no longer. But yeah, I think that when you're talking about the mountain towns, things obviously do have some level of divide. But,
Yeah.
But yeah, I think what she's referencing is the comment was made about they're in different counties, and they're not. They're in the same county, but yes, the SU was they attempted to put SUs together as much as they could in merger groups, although they did not for Stratton.
Okay. And do we know why they didn't for Stratton, or is there no clear?
I mean, I don't have any idea what the thinking was, or even if that is the thinking, but I can only imagine that Stratton, you know, wrote letters and petitioned to do so. I think not that you guys didn't as well, but that they're freer than you are because they're not attached to a secondary union. So
Okay. Yeah, that does change things because we're attached to the secondary school. Okay, so the alignment, so how does it look in the end? Like I said before, our participation in these study groups is going to be super duper important, at least from my perspective. We really need to figure out what it is that the population of Winhdam wants and why, and then we need to make sure that when whoever gets assigned to these study groups, we need to make sure that they have the data in front of them to support that decision. Because preference alone is not really going to be a significant enough factor to impact the outcome. It really comes down to, from the state's direction, at least from what I can see, is really finding efficiency at the end of the day. And really the question is what does Winhdam want to do? We realistically, and maybe this is the wrong attitude, but realistically, Winhdam is going to get put into a situation where we will have to, at the end of the day, align ourselves and be absorbed by a new district, whatever that district is. So we need to think about how that district might look, how it might work, and who might be part of that district. Whether we really want to or not, I don't believe personally that we are going to end up with a choice. Yes, we will have to vote to choose to either be in a district or not be in a district. But it looks like at the end of the day, there's going to be a strong drive to put us into a district. Bob?
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you on this, Michael. I think that there's two things really. I mean, you mentioned at the outset that there's a lot of uncertainty, and that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Not the least of which is the fact that it is an election year and that there'll be a new legislature. So, anything that was done can be undone. So that's sort of the first thing to be aware of, right? But the second thing is what I've heard in some of this, if you attach to a merger study group and you choose to not merge, because you would have a vote of your town at some point to merge with whatever is created in this merger group. The state had this, they're using the phrase orphan districts.
Yeah.
And that if orphan districts are under 750 students, that they may be assigned anyways at the end of the day. So that's what you're referencing, is you might be forced into something later. That is true. And the number is 750, which is, about the same size as the entire SU. So every single one of the SU districts are under 750. It's not just you guys. But so who knows? But then again, the whole legislature can change and the whole thing could be completely blown up. So many unknowns.
Well, and it's a 3-year process effectively. So it's not like in the next 3 years that something won't change. It'll probably change to some extent. The question is how far and what they do, at least from my perspective. Go ahead, Abby.
My understanding too, and watching the committee, was that if people did want to go faster than the timeline, that was also possible.
Yeah.
So even though it's mapping it out in this staggered kind of longer paced way, that it didn't mean that it would hinder being able to pursue things earlier than that timeline.
Yeah.
So.
True. Okay, so the slide in front of you gives like 4 different points of what we need to do, right? We need to focus on transportation and service efficiency. Keyword is efficiency, according to everything I'm seeing in 955. We need to definitely engage in the study committees. We need to provide some sort of local data that supports whatever it is that we believe needs to happen as a town. And then we also need to coordinate with our neighboring towns. So the boards can do some of this, right? But the boards cannot do all of that. What we need is we need a bunch of people, right? And that's the toughest pill to swallow. Is we need to get some folks on board who are going to help us find the data, figure out what data it is that we need to find, so that we can support whoever ends up engaged in whatever the study committees are. That's going to be like the 2 biggest pieces. We do need to coordinate with neighboring towns. I've had conversations with some folks that suggests that there might be a possibility of joining a quote unquote mountain towns district that would have somewhere around 1,000 students. We would have to work together to figure out how that would look and how that might work and be the most efficient, so that it can be brought up in the study committees. So we have the data to justify its quote unquote existence, right? So it's gonna be more than 2 people like doing the lift, right? Or 3 or 4 people. It's gonna be more than our boards. We really need a few folks to sort of join in and help us communicate with the other towns, maybe a couple of coordinated meetings and so forth and so on. Go ahead, Kate.
My wish for this group is also that we have to establish what we want first, because it would be it needs to be a reflection of what the community wants. So do you want me to organize some kind of poll or broadcast, so that, because my worst case scenario is that we have a group of motivated people and we all move in 3 different directions and nothing works. So, okay, so I will create some kind of poll, and do you want me to, if I send it out to select board?
Everybody. It needs to go to everybody. So I would say if you create the quote unquote link in the email or whatever, you can blast it on your end and then blast it. You can send it to the select board and we'll blast it as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then to break it down into nuts and bolts, then maybe there's some collaboration with Kate as to what really gets put on there. So it's very specific and answers the questions, because.
So Kate, would you feel comfortable talking to, let's just say a group of people and then coming up with what you think is a good foundation and then just send it to the select board and we can review and put our 3 cents in?
I can do that. Yeah, well, I'll meet with anybody, but
well, I mean, just, I think really what it comes down to is we need to sort of pose the question, if the sky is the limit, what is it that you really actually want, right? We have the potential to say, okay, there could be, let's say, 3 districts around us. Which one of these 3 directions would we want to go? Would you contemplate helping to organize a new district that is like a mountain town district? Or I mean, I don't know. The sky's the limit. We can't.
Well, here's what I can do, because I want to be helpful, but I also want to be very aware of my capacity. I'm a pretty good organizer. I'm not going to be your idea man on this, but if someone can tell me what they want and I can facilitate and move and schedule, I can totally do that.
Okay. All right.
Well, maybe what we can do is develop some concepts as we progress through the meeting, as the bullet points that we're looking for.
Idea.
And so I'm gonna need my paper back here.
Yep.
And then I'll try my best to keep track of that.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay. But the key word is that we're gonna have to find data. We can't just propose something willy-nilly and have nothing, right? That's the key. Okay, so here's some potential thoughts, right? So we can stay in our assigned group and stay in our lane, participate in the current regional study group and just stay there, right? We can also seek realignment to a different group if we want to. Whether we get allowed, quote unquote, out or not, is sort of a moot, because we are, I think, encouraged to participate and think about the other groups as well. So I think it's okay if we want to explore them, but we really have to know why we're looking at those groups. I think it's reasonable for us to argue that we might want to participate in another group really based on geography, right? We're really close to Londonderry. We're also pretty close to Chester. We're sort of right in the middle. So I think that if we really think about what we want and know what we want, we can probably articulate what we need to do. So, and then the reality is we can also seek completely realignment with something else that is something more preferred. There is, as we all know, a petition out there for removal from the WRED. It does sound like when 955 is actually officially law, it is blocked, right? That process is blocked. I could be wrong, but that's the way I interpret it. And in fact, it's probably arguable that if you presented on, the last day and then the next day the law was, put into effect, you might be just well, guys, there's already a remedy in progress. You're just going to have to wait for 3 years. But there is a petition in progress. Whether or not the petition gets delivered in a timely manner or whether it actually can force the conversation, I think it is a very good symbol. And I think that it is likely that at the very least, it becomes a data point. We can go to our study group, our study committee. We can also have a conversation with the WRED and be look, clearly there are a group of people that are disenfranchised with the current setup. We got to do something. So it's data. We'll see how that all works out in the wash. Okay, so if we don't do anything, we just stay and basically just ride the wave. We won't have, as a town, we won't have an impact on the final structure. We'll just be stuck wherever we end up. And we're gonna end up in a situation where things just won't make sense, right? We're kind of there already. We have one person who can have a conversation at the WRED, so they have very low impact because they only have one vote. And it's a bigger board. Clearly, I personally feel like that is not very effective for the town of Winhdam. But it's something to think about. No matter where we end up, we want to make sure, from my perspective, that we have a voice. And I think that's something at the district level that we are kind of, we've gotten to the point where we barely can participate because we're one body. Okay, so the successful outcome from my perspective is this. We've got strong local voice with whatever the system turns into. We are aligned regionally in the most appropriate manner, however that looks, whether it's based on roads and geography or where people work or whatever. That might be something to add to your thing, is where do people work, right? What direction are people looking at or working at and living at? And in the end, hopefully things become more efficient. I don't necessarily feel like that's really the case, but that's the theoretical outcome. And theoretically, things become more aligned, like regionally, so students are having better outcomes as a general rule, as a state, hopefully. And that's pretty much it, right? H955 is like a moving target. God only knows what'll end up in 3 years, because really right now is the time where we need to influence where we're headed. We need to start planning, whatever that planning looks like. We need to start the ball moving because it's happening. It's going to be at least 2 years of agony and probably 3. And I'm not sure how we as a town are going to handle another 2/3 years of torment. We've already experienced plenty. So I don't know. It's going to be a tough egg to crack. How we can get people motivated and doing it, I don't know that either, but it's important now. Kate, go ahead.
I do think, I don't know. This is where my optimism comes in. We have an opportunity here to pivot something. I don't know how we're going to find the people to do it. But there will be a result at the end of it. If we are if we at the end we will send children to a school, and how much influence we get over that is what we decide now. But I don't know. I am very respectful of the fact that I came in late to this party. But I do, if there is a lot of action that is meaningful right now that I don't think would be meaningful without the amount of change that's happening. So I just wanted to point that out.
Here, here. I agree. Now is the time. If we're going to do anything, now is the time. If we choose not to do anything and just ride it, okay. But we're not helping the future people of the town if we do nothing, I think. So the floor is open. Does anybody have any questions or conversations or thoughts? Go ahead, Abby.
That, as you had mentioned, the needing of people to participate in getting this stuff, is there thought of establishing a committee of folks so that there is some organizational structure to people versus anybody duplicating efforts? And I don't know who that would fall under, if we want to try to establish it as school board folks establish we're taking the next month off though, so we're trying to, but there may be a need for a special meeting, as I think the calendar does say July 1st is when they're gonna start with hiring facilitators
Yeah,
for the merging committees. So that would mean there may be potential planning our board has to do. We may likely have to have a special meeting, for that. Or possibly other stuff. So
I think Tom might have a comment. Tom, go ahead.
My only comment is, there's only 11 people here. You need to get a lot more people involved.
Yeah, I've been.
My vote, and I have no kids in school. I think a Sunday school is the best idea. So that's my comment.
So you're advocating for the district to be K through 12 tuitioning, sending for all the students versus the K through 6 tuition only.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the real problem is you only have 11 people here.
Yeah.
Right. We do have BCTV here. This is being recorded, so the meeting will be able to be shared and easily accessible. So plus the select board will also have a copy of their Zoom that can be shared as well.
Yeah.
So we will be trying to push that out there, Tom. It's a very good point. So thank you for bringing that up. Because yes, we need the forces. It was trying to find a meeting at the select board meeting on Monday and how it would work with the schedules and everything everyone's got going on. So there wasn't even a lot of turnaround time in establishing this meeting. So
In all fairness, though, we have been talking about the potential ramifications for a bit. I would agree with you. We need to get more people. We definitely need more people. Is there some way that you can think, Tom, that might help get the word out?
I don't know. I get my information through the town hall, so I just get emails and that's all I get.
Yeah. Okay.
But no, I think the emails are great, but there's still participation. That's the problem.
Yeah, I agree. And it's going to be hard to sustain. Any other comments?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Who is the committee beholden to? How formal of a committee is it? How many members are we looking for? Can we establish the parameters of that so that we can?
The local?
all hands on deck for are you talking about our committee that we're trying to get to help with the stuff?
Yeah.
All hands on deck, as many people as are willing to help out, I would.
I would say that the committee should be just like an ad hoc, right? A group of people that say they're going to get together and have conversations. I don't think we have to make it an official, like, hootenanny. It has to be, we have to think about this, at least from my perspective, is it's got to be sort of the community-driven process, right? And the community ad hoc committee of whoever wants to show up whenever they want to get together that makes sense to them. If they can have conversations about what it is, they can advise the select board and school board what they want. And, right? The select board and school board can say, hey, that's a fantastic idea. This is what we need.
We do have somewhat of a parent group that has a little bit of momentum right now.
Yeah.
Can we get them to pick a date first and then broadcast that date?
That sounds brilliant. I like that idea.
Okay.
Would you be willing to have that conversation with the group?
I will begin the thread. I can do that. Yeah.
Perfect. All right.
Thank you, Kate.
Cord, what are your thoughts?
I think, like Tom said, unfortunately, getting people stimulated to get involved in these things is not easy. That's for sure, as we all know. If the people who are here tonight aren't jumping in and saying, I want to be involved, that's not a good sign. We're here. But I think the idea of getting the parents group involved is great. That's a good starting point. But as we know and have experienced with other committees, getting people to get on board and involved is not easy. And like I said to you before, we've been down this road in town a number of times, and it's never amounted to anything. So I think we've got a network of people here who are skeptical that this is going to be any different. So, and I'm usually an optimist too. Like Kate said, I would rather be optimistic than pessimistic, but I think we got to be real that it's got to come from, in my mind, the younger people who have kids and have an agenda or an interest in what's going to happen down the road. Because some of the older people who've been through it before, I'm not sure are going to be too willing to get involved.
Yeah.
I may be wrong, and that's not the point of this meeting. We need to have some positivity, but that's the reality, I think, of what goes on in town is that we're up against some, previous experiences that are going to discourage some people. So if we can figure out a way to target younger people who, have a personal interest in this in particular, that would be great.
No, I think you're right. That's the elephant right there. As people are burnt, right? So it's going to be a tough push, I think. Bob, can you clarify how those committees are made up, or are you still trying to figure it out as well?
Do you mean the merger study committees?
Yeah.
Yeah, they made up of board members. The way they understand it is that each district board in the group will send a member to serve on that, is how I understand it. But until the final language is out, it's really hard to confirm that. I do know that if you want to.
It sounds like to you that the one member from the WRED will be assigned to that.
I mean, that's what I'm hearing right now is one. It's not one per town, it's one per district.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought too. Yeah, and that's not really too promising, but at least we have the Windham Elementary District. Okay. All right, so I think we got like maybe a few first steps. We'll try to put together a list of some questions for a poll to try to figure out what the direction is that people want us to advocate for. And then we'll send you we'll kind of talk not really talk, but if you can think of any questions, do you want to send your questions to Abby? We'll just pile everything on Abby and she can send it to Kate.
I will,
Or
yep.
Kate.
Yep, and I'll try and ask other people for input and questions too. Again, like I said, I'm usually more of an optimist, and I have to say I appreciate your organizing this and all the work that you're putting into it, and the community needs that, that's for sure. It's just I'm struggling myself with how to get people motivated to get involved. So, but I'll reach out and see what questions I can, or what perspectives I can get together and send them to you. Yeah.
All right. I'll be frank with you, Cord. I'm not optimistic. From my perspective, we are probably going to end up lumped into whatever the SU gets lumped into, and we will be sending our kids to probably, maybe if we're lucky, grade school at Leland and Gray, and then we'll be sending our kids to high school at Brattleboro, if we're lucky. And I'm not correct. I kind of hope I'm not, but I think that's the reality. If you look at the verbiage when we're talking about quote unquote local, well, you could argue that Leland and Gray is more or less local, and then regional, well, regional is not Leland and Gray.
In those numbers.
Yeah, with those anything remotely close to those numbers. So I think that's
I think I said to you before, my wife was involved in this for quite a while, not too long ago or a few years ago, and her prediction was that this is where it was headed anyway, and that we'd be ended up in Brattleboro. So I don't think you're right. I'm not sure that's any big surprise.
Yeah. Crystal, go ahead.
I agree. I think we're going to be lumped into a bigger district. I kind of feel that it's going to end up being Brattleboro, but I can't say for certain. I really do encourage parents, though, if at all possible. I mean, I take Jackson and Oliver to events at Brattleboro High School, so they are familiar with that school. I also take them to events in Manchester because I think we're not gonna get a say. I feel like it's gonna end up a forced thing. And I really think that for our kids' mental health, they have to be familiar with these areas, the things they do, the things they offer. So I would strongly encourage parents who think they're going to continue with public education to do this with their kids.
Thank you, Crystal. Okay. Kate, go ahead.
I've got a whiteboard over here, so I'm disappearing off screen when I'm listening. When you said a mountain town district,
Yeah.
who in your theoretical geographical, like who does that mean?
Oh gosh, I knew that. I knew that.
I don't think I have
So,
one.
effectively, if you draw a line between us and we're talking like Londonderry and Stratton and Winhall and Jamaica and sort of
Dover.
that the big loop.
Okay.
Where there's a lot of similarities to the community being split on different sides of the ridge.
And you got like Landgrove and Peru and
Okay. Because I think anybody going back to the state with a solution, I can imagine would be a very appealing thing. Because that takes, how many of those towns are unhappy with the arrangement that has just been made? And so if we can take all of them together, we have a lot of pull there because we solve 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tiny towns problems and we solved it. So I really like that idea.
The challenge is it also, so you're looking at the criteria, and if they're merging to districts that are, 2,000 is the number.
Yeah,
It still doesn't meet it. So are they going to concede? And that most of those districts are also going to want to be non-operational, which is, as we all know, contentious. So those are things I think we all battle. And I agree 100%. It would be great if we could unify. I just don't know if the numbers are there to even offset what we're up against.
No, I think that there's if we could find a way to communicate with those towns and we could all have those conversations and have those conversations in like the 2 study groups, then I think I do think it is possible. The question is whether they're willing to allow non-operational districts to still exist, right? I think that it's fair to say at the state level, school choice is not highly encouraged. But I do think that it does solve their issue. Like there's lots of different conversations about challenges with districts and schools that are geographically isolated, and it does solve it, right? If you have a school that's going to be really long ways, or a town rather, that's going to be really long ways from any particular direction, it becomes an isolated town. And what do? You try to make it work for everybody, and I think that's what our town is, personally. So I think it's a good idea to have those conversations for sure.
Not sure this is the time to get into it, but I've mentioned this before. When is the time to consider litigation?
Probably, I don't know. That's a lawyer question.
You're not the first person that I've heard that from, Cord. I've heard that from several people.
When you think about it, it all started with Brigham and it's gone downhill since then. So somebody sued and,
Yeah.
part of me feels like the only way we can get the legislature to really pay attention might be something like that. But so maybe, Kate, from a standpoint of a poll, maybe one of the line items, in the poll could be, would you support developing a coalition of towns, let's say, or funding an effort to
Yeah.
litigate this issue? Because
I-
the feeling is I'm tending to believe that that's the only way we're going to get the legislature to pay any attention, is if they're forced to.
My counter argument to that is that I do agree with you. I think there's potential there. My counter argument with the non-lawyer that I am would be that the remedy is already in effect. You just haven't felt it yet. But I don't know, Crystal.
I believe, can't say for certain, but I believe there's already litigation happening surrounding losing school choice.
Maybe we could get a couple lawyers in the same room and see if they can find a path. Would you be willing to have a conversation with Bob and see if he thinks that there's potential for it? I mean, I could see that as a exploratory being appropriate.
I started that already. He's given it some thought and getting back to us. The question is, who would be a good litigator to handle something like this? So he's given it some thought and going to get back to us.
Good.
I know some people.
Good.
So, would you like me to send you guys some suggestions of? I mean, we have
If
our.
you do, yeah, that's fine. So, you can send it to me.
We do have two different budgets. We could probably split the pain,
There you go.
right? I mean, I don't know what your guys' budget looks like in terms of legal stuff, but
Well, aren't
we have some.
Wasn't there a conversation that was just had in the school board meeting about our budget?
What's that?
The budget that, like, I don't know what I thought there was an issue with how we're paying taxes this year in order to make the school budget work.
Oh, that's
Not our budget. I don't think.
no, that was so I don't know the exact details, but basically the money is drying up in your account until you get paid for the taxes. So there's like a gap of time where you don't have a whole lot of cash. And the conversation that I heard was basically, and I talked with Kathy about it, that basically if we paid our taxes early, you guys wouldn't end up in a situation where you wouldn't have a zero fund balance, right? So I'm not exactly sure how you would have a zero fund balance, because I thought you had operational reserve, but it doesn't matter. We have to pay the taxes anyway. And if we have the money in the account, it's not really a big deal to pay the taxes.
No, we've been through that before. I think that comes up virtually every year. So
yeah, that's what I told Kathy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just
Okay.
thinking
Well, is there
Yeah, go ahead, Kate.
No, that's I'm just how to build in a legal, into a budget this late in the year. But that's semantics.
Well, you already.
I wouldn't look at that. I wouldn't look at that as a short-term solution either. I think we'd have to come up with a budget, find somebody, see if there's a correct, an effective legal path to go after, find the right attorney, get some kind of a budget number from them, get the voters' approval to build it into a budget going forward. So I'm not looking at that as a short-term, project, because I think, in my opinion, one of the only ways to make that effective would be to have a coalition of towns. Just doing this little Winhdam, we already rocked the boat and enough.
Yeah.
I'm not sure they're going to pay attention to, Bob Fisher, for instance, if he starts going after the state. So I think there's a lot of work to do on that, in addition to all this work that Michael and Abby are doing. I just don't mean to cloud the issue. I just wanted to throw that out there and see. I think as we're polling people, it obviously is going to need voter support because they're going to have to be paid for somehow. And if we can weave that concept into a poll that we're taking to see what kind of voter support we might get to fund that. I think that might tell us something too.
Yeah. But don't forget, we did ask, or it was asked at town meeting whether we should consider that, and it was approved, I think, unanimously. So I don't think it's inappropriate for us to have the conversations. I do agree that it's gonna be a process, so if we set up a path, it might cost us a tiny bit of money now, but like if it's gonna become a long-term project, which it would be, we would have to build it into next year's budget. But we can do that. I don't see why we wouldn't be able to. Okay. Is there any more conversation regarding H955?
Any questions people might have that they don't understand or want us to look into more? And we'll share more as it comes out and we have more definitive,
Yeah.
Direction.
Okay.
I haven't eaten, don't mind me as I'm eating like a savage popcorn over here, but.
So, moving on to item number 2, discussion. If anybody wants to backtrack or whatever, just speak up. I don't care. It doesn't matter. It'll be okay. So moving on to item number 2, discussion possible action regarding the Windham School Board. The WRED School Director, representative from Winhdam. So as you may or may not know, Crystal resigned from the position, a week or 2 ago, for personal reasons, so we have a vacancy. I personally have reached out to approximately 30 people, and I've yet to find anybody who is even interested in contemplating the idea. Has anybody else had any luck or any different luck than I?
No. I don't know either.
Crystal, do you have any thoughts? Or Bridget?
You know my thoughts, Michael.
Right.
Thank you, Crystal.
Would you like to pose your thoughts to the public?
I would like to suggest Michael Pelton take my seat as the Winhdam representative for the WRED board.
I said that too, Crystal, but I hesitate to push it because I need Michael for other things too, but I
The
understand.
meetings fall on the opposite week of yours.
So it does? It falls on the opposite week of the select boards?
Good.
Pretty sure the next regular board meeting is June 8th. And I don't believe you have a meeting that day, correct?
Did you not?
No.
Are you interested in that, Michael?
Bridget, do you have any thoughts? Do you know of anybody who might be interested? Because
I think people are.
Sorry, my I couldn't get my fingers to work fast enough. I don't know. I was like, who's good at like talking to people? And I thought of Erin, and then she's the only other one I thought of, but I don't think she would do it.
No, I called her.
Erin is in electrical school, so she can't.
Good for Erin.
Yes, I agree. So do I really want to do it? No, not particularly. I do think it's important that we have somebody there, though. They're going through a lot, right? They're trying to figure out how to get a budget. So I think it's important that we have a voice on the board.
Who appoints this person?
The board, their board, the WRED, the select board makes a recommendation. And they're technically supposed to inform us, their board is supposed to inform us, I think, within 5 days or something. And then we're supposed to come up with a recommendation and so forth. Their board never informed us, but Crystal informed us, so I took that as an indicator. So I did send Bob an email asking what it is that the select board needed to do. And his recommendation is that we come up with a recommendation. So that's why we talked about it at the last select board meeting and so forth. So.
Does Bob have any thoughts? Do you have any suggestions, Bob?
Yeah, I don't have any suggestions for who you fill it with. It's up to you as a community, but the process that's been described is correct. That the West River Board appoints somebody in consultation is the word they use with the select board of the town.
And what is the official notification process, Bob? Do we just send them an email saying, hey, we voted to recommend this person?
Yeah, I think if the select board made a motion to make a suggestion for someone, and that got sent forwarded through me to the board, the law says within 30 days of providing notice and after consultation with the select board, the Unified Union School District Board shall appoint an eligible person, meaning a Winhdam resident who's a registered voter, to fill the vacancy. And again, this just so everyone knows that the vacancy is filled until your town meeting.
Yes.
I think I spelled this out for you, Michael, in that email, but I forget what it was at the time, but we're in the middle of a 3-year term. And so this person would fill out until town meeting. And then the town would elect a new person to finish that 3-year term, which I think might be one more year after that. And then the new three-year term would start the following year. So 2028, I think, town meeting day. So it's really a bridge person. Someone who wants to take a test drive, see if they like it or whatever, and just try it out for 9 months, and then they can step away and have the town elect somebody new if they choose.
What does your wife think about this, Michael?
I was actually gonna ask if the select board is able to make a recommendation, Bob. Are they, since it sounds like there's a West River meeting coming up this Monday, if they receive the correspondence, would it be warned in time for them to make a decision? So Winhdam could be represented and not have a large gap?
I think the board would have to appoint somebody, and then I mean, I'll have to double check as far as like the oath and all that, but if it's somebody who's already an office server, maybe that's a different process. I'll double check that tomorrow.
But it was to be asked if it could potentially, if the select board sent the email, would they be able to request that it be added to the agenda for Monday's meeting?
Well, the resignation's on the agenda already, so it's already there.
What did you say? I'm sorry.
I didn't hear.
The resignation is already on the agenda, so.
Okay, so it's an item. If we had somebody to put in the position, they could be a conversation and theoretical appointment.
Yeah. The question is whether they would be able to participate that night or whether they'd have to do something else first, but that's technicality, really.
Yeah, well, they wouldn't necessarily be able to vote until they had their oath, but they could still participate as a non-voting member if the chair allowed it.
Yeah, once they were.
It would be up to the chair to decide whether it's copacetic, but I can't imagine they would. Okay, well, barring no other option, I guess I will consider it, but I wouldn't want to be on the board after town meeting. Like, we really need to find somebody. So if we needed a substitute until town meeting, I'll do that. But
we also have the merger district stuff and timelines that we could advance on with information, and who knows what would happen.
I could always quit. Somebody else could take my spot if somebody else stepped up, hopefully.
Yeah.
All right, I'll make a motion that we recommend Michael for the position to fill the role until somebody else steps up, or town meeting, whichever comes first.
All right. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Congratulations, Michael. We'll see what the.
So I will. Well, do I need to send you an email, Bob, to make sure it's all official?
I think me hearing that is probably official enough. Thank you, though.
Okay, I'll talk to the town clerk and see. Oh no, she can't do an oath until I've been appointed by the board anyway, so it doesn't matter. Okay.
You can prep it though.
What's that?
You can have it prepped.
Yeah, but she can't sign it and I can't sign it until it's administered. She can't admit it until.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
She can have it printed off and ready to go though. All right.
Make it life easier for Emily.
Yes, that's true. I'll talk to her. Okay, thank you, Bob, for touching base with the WRED board and, yeah. I look forward to many emails from the board and invites to their meetings. Is there any other business or discussion that anybody would like to have before we depart?
We'll keep working on the parents group with folks, and I think getting the, maybe their insight too as to what would be appropriate for survey questions would be great, because there's some feedback we could probably just get right off the texts. And getting that information together within a reasonable amount of time. I know everyone's heading into summer, but we really need the feedback. So just echoing that the efforts going through are going to take more folks. Families are out straight, everyone's exhausted. So the better when we can come together and have things more mainstreamed, I think it'll be more effective.
Not to get off on the tangent, but Bob, do you know do you have an idea, shall I say, when the study committees are likely to meet theoretically?
Yeah, I believe the appointing of the person is maybe by September 1st, and maybe they're formed in September, then they meet in October for the first time, as I recall.
Okay. So we should really have the beginning data by early fall, so they have an idea of what they've got to enter into the conversation, right? Okay.
And I will be also at all the select board meetings. So if people have questions or want to connect and they're at a meeting, they say, hey, where are we at with stuff, or they have interest, reach out, and clearly we can let the board know, even if they're taking a month break. So
All right.
we'll make it happen. Thank you, everybody.
You're up, Cord.
You're muted.
You're muted.
Best speech of his life.
There we go. Sorry about that. I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Any discussion?
Thanks for all you're doing. Thanks for all you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cord.
Have a great night, and thank you, everybody. We will see all of you later.